Hello again, my fellow YouTubers. Mr. Doom 6969, I believe it is, requested this video. I don't have an X-maxx anymore, but I still admin several X-maxx groups, and there has been a new 8S kit that has known as the 8S Power Up Kit that has come out for the X-maxx. The parts that come with it is a VXL 8S ESC. Already having problems with it. Does not come with the 1250 kV motor. A lot of people are upset about that because the stock 1600 kV motor, people are running 8S on it and the motor is seizing. It comes with dog bones that have, well, axles, dog bones, whatever you want to call them, drive shafts that have larger CV pins, so possibly no more having to get Fastenal 3x20M pins, because I know the stock ones broke like glass, and I even got the Fastenal for mine. I happen to remember. It comes with a complete metal. The entire drive line is metal now. It comes with a new final drive gear that actually has sort of like a center diff setup, but it still allows you to wheelie. Usually with a center diff setup, it will send the power to the wheels like a differential, whichever wheels have the least amount of traction. But the way they've set this up, it actually, you can still do wheelies with it without the front tires ballooning like horrible. Basically, with it also comes with a new rear bulkhead, because the new CV, usually the main drive gear that is plastic is now metal, which has that sort of like center diff, sort of like, I haven't seen it yet in person to know exactly how it works. But it comes with a new bulkhead for that because it takes up a little more room. So you're going to have to completely remove the rear to put in the new final drive gear. You're going to have to put in the new spur unit that comes with a metal spur gear, metal everything. You'll have to replace all your drive shafts, all your stub axles. Pretty big job. All your diffs, because the new diffs, I believe, have a different ratio, but the teeth are bigger. The biggest problem with the X-maxx was Traxxas put 8th scale teeth on a vehicle that weighs equal to about a 5th scale. It's not the size of a 5th scale, but it weighs about 25 pounds, which my Baja, my gas-powered Baja, weighs about 25-30 pounds. So those teeth just got eaten up, and just now recently Rock Passions came out with a diff setup that is actually pretty strong, and a lot of people have been taking the stock diffs gears, the ring gear or the crown gear and the pinion, heating them up until they're glowing red and then dunking them in oil. Basically what that does is it hardens them, and dunking them in oil, motor oil, there's carbon in motor oil, you can't use synthetic, and the heat, when it cools down, the metal will actually soak in some of the carbon, so it's sort of like carbon hardening the steel. And from people that I've heard that have done it, they've had no problems. But thus far with the 8S kit, you're gonna have to, I'll just use my T-Max. Well, yeah, it's the one closest. You're going to have to replace the axles. The stub axles all the way on the outside, that they're either blue or red, that you connect the tire on, because the CV pins are bigger. The axles overall are bigger a little bit. New drive cups. New diff gears, pinion and ring. So front and back. The main drive gear, and it comes with the extra bulkhead for the main drive gear with the center diff, sort of like center diff part, so it'll fit. I'm having to think from memory because I don't have anything right in front of me. I've seen it so many times, people talking about it. In February, a lot of people are buying this 8S kit and running it on their 1600 kV motor. That 1600 kV motor was not designed to handle 8S. So Traxxas sort of jumped the gun there, trying to make some extra money and trying to get stronger parts out to people who have the Gen 1 X-maxx. And a lot of people, I will admit, are pissed off. They're pissed off because, straight out, Traxxas failed with the original gears for so many people. Some people have never had a problem, but a lot have. I would say about 75% of owners have had a problem with the new diff gears. I mean the old diff gears, because the teeth were simply too small. So basically that's it when it comes to the 8S kit. You get the VXL 8S ESC. You get the drive shafts all around, the drive cups that go into the differentials, the stub axles that go on the outside in the hubs and what the tires bolt onto and drive the tires. A metal spur gear setup that's completely metal. Everything's metal. Still has a slipper. I think they upgraded the slipper a little because you're running 8S now instead of 6S. It's funny because it's $300 plus a $180 cord charge until you send in your... I still have mine for my X-maxx. Give me that. Your VXL 6S. I took the fan off and actually put it on something else, but I still have my VXL 6S ESC. If you send this back or go to a hobby store, all you have to do is spend $300, but it does not come with a 8S capable motor. So the upside, you get new stronger driveline components that will be able to take the 6S abuse and hopefully not break. I'm not going to say it will break. I'm not going to say it won't break. Only time will tell. Like when the X-maxx originally came out, people started going through diffs left and right. I know some people who have gone through 20 plus, front and back. So that would be 40. I'm sorry I'm saying a lot, but I'm having to think compared to memory. You can look up specs about the kit, but basically you're going to have to pull... I have videos on how you can get to the final drive gear, and that's one part you have to replace along with the rear bulkhead. And then of course you're going to have to pull your old ESC, put in the new one, connect it, do the wiring. You're going to have to take out all your stub axles, your drive shafts, all four of them all the way around, and put in the new ones, as well as the drive cups. You have the front and rear differential gears that you're going to have to replace. So it's not a small job, but it's to me it's sort of stupid that they're selling that for... If you don't have the VXL 6S ESC, you're having to spend $480, and it doesn't even come with the 1250. It doesn't even come with the 8S capable motor. So people are getting this thinking, oh, okay, I want to be able to run 8S. The 1600 kV motor is seizing, and so far Traxxas is not warranting it because it is a 6S motor. So people are thinking, oh, I now have this 8S setup, I can run 8S. Well, no, you can't. That motor on it is a 1600 kV 6S motor, not 8S. They do have a 1250 kV motor coming in February. So for $100 extra, the original X-maxx was $800. The new one is $900, which is 8S capable. Personally, I'm going to wait probably 2 or 3 months, see if the diffs hold up. If they do, I'm going to wait for a roller that doesn't have any electronics. I'm going to buy the roller, put a Castle XLX ESC 2028 800 kV motor, basically the same thing I did with my original X-maxx, but I won't have to worry about the diffs breaking. So that's basically what's going on with the power-up kit and what's involved in replacing all the parts, the rear bulkhead and the main drive gear, the spur gear unit, the drive shafts, stub shafts, ESC, and I'm pretty sure that's about it. Well, yeah, also the differentials and drive cups, because overall everything's a little bit bigger, which is a good thing. I mean, so many people had problems with the X-maxx. Another big thing was the slipper always coming loose. Well, a remedy that I found was get a second nut and put it behind the original nut to tighten the slipper and lock the two together, and it will not come off. People tried red Loctite, it didn't work. People tried many different things. The only thing I found that held it in place was just putting a second nut on there, which is the same size nut as you would find on like a Stampede or a Slash, the wheel nut. So that's what I did. I took a extra nut. Let me see if I can actually find one real quick. I don't know if I can right offhand. I know I have the parts sitting around here somewhere. No. But yeah, it's just some, I just took another wheel nut and tightened the two together and locked them together so the slipper wouldn't back off. And because people had so many slippers that were slipping, it was getting so hot because all of that friction, their spur gears were literally melting because it's plastic. The original spur gear was plastic. So yeah, they would melt and then you would lose all power. But like I said, the new VXL 8S ESC, they're already having problems with it. That's the one thing that sort of sucks about buying a vehicle that is brand new to the market. You are basically paying to be a beta tester. Like myself with the X-maxx, I learned my lesson. I didn't really learn my lesson. I bought a E-Flight Convergence VTOL. I've had no problems with it except the one problem, but I've flown it in plane mode now. I've had no problems except the very first problem, but I'm sort of thinking the original problem stemmed from the fact that some parts of the plane were already broken, but the hobby shop that I bought it from, it was a demo plane. They glued the styrofoam back together with styrofoam glue, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but I've recorded several flights. I just haven't uploaded them yet because I'm still editing them. But this something like this where I'm just discussing a new part that's come out. Personally, I wouldn't waste your time with the 8S upgrade kit. I'd wait for the new X-maxx itself. You're only paying an extra $100 instead of paying $480 if you don't have the VXL 6S. If you have the VXL 6S, it's only $300. So, but me personally, I don't like Traxxas electronics, especially when it comes to ESC and motors, because they directly match them. When you match a motor and an ESC together, the ESC is always supposed to be 20% more capable of delivering power, amperage, voltage than the motor will ever pull. Well, with Traxxas, they make it so it directly matched. That's what happened a lot with the VXL 6S catching fire. The motor pulled more amperage than the ESC could actually take. That's when they put the fusible link in, and if the fusible link popped, that basically, if it split, that basically meant that the motor was pulling more than the ESC could handle, so it would pop right at the series connector. Is the jumper wire. That's where the fusible link would be placed. It's the jumper wire that makes the connection, a series connection for 2 3S batteries, making a total of 6S. So my opinion on it, some people have already gone for it. Great. I mean, upgrade your X-maxx without having to shell out $900. But if you don't have an X-maxx, you can now get an 8S X-maxx and run 6S and possibly not have to worry about breaking anything. I know Kershaw Designs has been shipping out the wrong motor mount plate because a lot of people have been wanting to put the 2028 motor or some Leopard motors in, or even Poseidon motors, and they're getting the thinner plate, which is meant for the 1600 kV, the stock X-maxx motor. But Kershaw came up with a little system where it sort of sandwiches the motor between two metal plates, where you can set the spur yourself instead of having to use that pin system that Traxxas came up. Great idea, but I did hear from a lot of people when they went to change gearing, either the mesh was too tight or too loose. So that wasn't an exact. I always set my mesh myself. It's not hard to do. You put a piece of paper between the pinion and the spur, and then you tighten down whichever one is loose. Usually the pinion is the part that's loose, so you tighten down the motor, and then it's set, and you pull a piece of paper out, and now you have a perfect gear mesh. I've actually gotten to the point now that I've set so many gear meshes on so many cars, from nitro to 5th scale to electric, from 10th to 8th scale on electric, even a couple 5th scale electrics, that I don't even need to use the paper anymore, because after so long you get an eye for how big the gap needs to be. I will say the Savage that I got came with this clutch bell on it. This is a Savage 25 clutch bell. It can't hold up to the power of the K5.9, especially with a metal Robinson Racing hardened spur. It's funny, my pinion clutch bell looks like this, but the spur gear still looks brand new. I mean, I actually saw sparks flying because I was like, what's going on? Well, I drove it over to me. I was thinking it was my transmission, because I've heard of transmission failures with the Savage XL, but thankfully it was just a pinion, and I had 4 extra pinions, so that's not a big deal, and they were actual Savage XL pinions. So I hope that sort of straightens out what you're going to have to do if you have an X-maxx and you decide to do the swap to the power, the 8S power up kit. Just remember, you're not going to be able to run 8S until you have that 1250 kV motor. It also does come with a fan to put on top of the motor. Personally, it's not as good as the 2028 fan shroud. It's just a little box about that big, maybe 3 inches by 1.5 inches. That just goes on top of the heat sink and pulls heat away from the motor. We've been doing that. Any X-maxx owner has been doing that with the hot racing fan. The 2028 shroud, just flip the fans so it's actually pulling the heat away instead of blowing air down onto it. A lot of people, including myself, actually found that pulling air off of it pulls the heat away and actually cooled the motor better than blowing air down onto it, because that air really has nowhere to go. When you blow it down in, it just sort of gets stuck there. If you add some ESC fans blowing in on each side of the ESC, and then you have those two 2028 fans pulling out, you basically created a air current that's really going to keep everything cool. And it did for me. But I eventually, like many people have seen my videos, I completely went with Castle 2028 XLX ESC 800 kV motor. I ended up gearing insanely high, a 53 tooth pinion with a 50 tooth spur. I never went down to the 46 tooth spur, because honestly it was fast enough as it is. The X-maxx isn't really meant to be fast. The 6S version was meant to go about 35, 37 miles per hour. The new 8S version is supposed to do about 50 miles per hour. To me, for a vehicle that big, that's actually pushing the limits of safety. 35 to, if you geared it to 1850, you could get 45 miles per hour easily, and that was plenty fast enough for a vehicle that big. Now people are going to be getting the 8S set up and gearing even higher. So that's, in my opinion, a lot of people are gonna have some crashes at some higher speeds, breaking more parts. And although I like Traxxas to a degree, I mean, I have several of their cars. I have 3 Nitro Revos. 2 of them are 3.3s, another is a 2.5. I got T-Max. I got the funny car that I've upgraded. I've got a Slash that I've upgraded. All my Traxxas vehicles are upgraded except my Revos. They don't have a lot of upgrades, but they still have upgrades. But nothing that'll really matter. So, if you have any questions regarding the new 8S setup, you can look it up, and then if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, because I know the X-maxx very well. I know that truck. If I was to get one today, I would still remember exactly what screws would take apart what and what to do, especially when it comes to having to replace that final drive gear. And that's the gear that the center axle shaft, the part with the sort of center diff part, that's what the main axle is attached to. So all I can say is wait. Oh yeah, it also comes with a wheelie bar, because you are going to be pulling more wheelies. Why they didn't do that with the 6S, I don't know, because the 6S did wheelies. I guess with the 8S it's going to be more prone to wheelies, because you're running how many volts would that be? 7.4 plus 22.2, so 29.6, I believe. If I did that really quick in my head, so I'm probably wrong. But fully charged, a little over 30 volts. So yeah, it's going to be pretty damn quick and pretty damn powerful. So all I can say is do what you want. It's your money. Myself, I'm going to wait, because I'm not going to be another beta tester for Traxxas. I'll see how it does. If it handles 6S decently, I'll end up going, well, 8S decently, and diff's not breaking all the time, I'll end up going with the a roller and putting a 5th scale servo in. Evolution RC actually has a video. I actually know the guy. He hasn't been very talkative on Facebook here lately, but he has 2 different ways you can do that. He has a complicated way and a more simple way, where you move the receiver box and you just sort of cut some pieces out. You'll have to make a aluminum or 3D printed, I would prefer aluminum, but aluminum bracket to hold everything in place. And I'll be doing that if I get another X-maxx. Personally, I'm leaning more towards the Sin Reaper. It's going to be 1/7 scale, and not many people have bad things to say about Sin. They were gone for a little while, but then they came back with a vengeance. So, also, my local hobby shop has a Convergence in stock, and I'll even get it out. They have one of these in stock. A lot of people have asked me, where can they get one? Well, now you know. Just comment and I'll let you know exactly where it's at. I will just say this: Stockbridge Hobby Shop in Stockbridge, Georgia. The Convergence, you're probably going to have to pay. I already asked them straight out. You're going to have to pay a little extra for shipping. I can't remember. I think it was $249 for the Convergence, $329 for this. I personally don't run this, because with HPI not distributing, it sits. So I hope this video helps some people decide on the power up and what it entails, and changing everything, changing all the parts, the diffs, the drive shafts, the ESC, the main drive gear that has the sort of central torque vectoring or something like that, center diff. So yeah, it's completely up to you what you want to do with your money. Personally, I'm gonna wait. So thank you again for watching, and remember, May 2nd, Armor Granite giveaway. Peace.